In Alysa Liu and Eileen Gu, China and America see mirror images. People on social media in China and the West can't stop comparing Alysa Liu and Eileen Gu, two of the biggest stars at the Winter Olympics. It's hard not to. Both were raised in the Bay Area. Both have a parent from China. Both are sports prodigies. In Milan, Liu, a 20-year-old born in Clovis and raised in the East Bay, became the first American in 24 years to win gold in women's figure skating, and she added a second gold in the team event. San Francisco native Gu, 22, won 1 gold and 2 silvers in freestyle skiing. Gu will be the Grand Marshal of San Francisco's Chinese New Year parade tonight, and Liu will be honored in Oakland with her own celebration Thursday at Frank Ogoa Plaza. The difference: Liu, whose father was a Tiananmen dissident who fled China for the United States in 1989, was on Team USA. Gu, who obtained a Chinese passport in 2019, chose to represent China. In the United States, many people celebrated Liu's performance as a win for liberty, while some, like former NBA player Enes Kanter Freedom and various conservative media figures, have called Gu a traitor. Several politicians have accused her of supporting America's adversary. On the Chinese internet, the treatment of the two women was largely reversed. On the Chinese social media platform Weibo, for instance, a user based in Guangdong commented, "Eileen Gu is a hero of China, while Alysa Liu is a descendant of an anti-China figure." The reaction is both unfortunate and predictable. As the United States and China intensify a geopolitical rivalry that could determine global leadership deep into the 21st century, nationalism on both sides has intensified. The uncomfortable comparison so many are making between Liu and Gu speaks to modern sport. It exposes questions of heritage, loyalty, and identity, thrusting the two athletes into the politics of both countries. Much of the commentary is a proxy for rival nationalism. On the American side, increasingly vocal demands that immigrants prove their allegiance. On the Chinese side, an insistence that Chinese ethnicity demands loyalty and that dissent is betrayal. The Chinese Communist Party has long advanced an ethno-nationalist idea of belonging, that people of Chinese descent, wherever they reside and whatever passport they hold, remain part of the Chinese nation. Under Xi Jinping, who took full power in 2013, this principle has strengthened. Ethnicity has become a bond that carries expectations of loyalty. Many Chinese people in and outside the country, who criticize or question official Beijing positions, not only political activists but journalists, too, are invariably labeled sellouts or worse. This is worth keeping in mind when Americans call Gu a traitor. They are borrowing the Chinese Communist Party's vocabulary and adopting its framework of birthplace loyalty. The ethno-nationalist philosophy also explains the scale of China's investment in athletes of Chinese heritage. Of the 48 players on China's men's and women's Olympic hockey teams in 2022, 22 of them were naturalized athletes with Chinese lineage. Gu was the most visible example of this recruitment effort. When she switched to represent China in 2019, she became a geopolitical asset for Beijing. A Beijing city government document published last year showed that the Municipal Sports Bureau planned to pay Gu and one other American-born athlete competing for China a combined $14 million over 3 years. Their names were later scrubbed from the record after it drew public criticism. The episode offered a rare glimpse into how the state invests in athletic success as a form of soft power. If Gu's case illustrates how the state embraces certain members of the Chinese diaspora, Liu's family story illustrated how it treats others. Her father, Arthur Liu, was a student activist who ended up on the government's most wanted list after the Tiananmen crackdown. He fled to the United States, became a lawyer, and raised 5 children as a single father. Alysa is the oldest. She started skating at 5 and became national champion at 13. Arthur Liu said in media interviews that he had been approached about having Alysa represent China, but declined out of concerns about the country's human rights record. Before the 2022 Beijing Olympics, it was reported at the time, U.S. authorities informed Liu that he and Alysa were targets of a Chinese government-linked surveillance and harassment effort. The U.S. government provided protection for Alysa during the Games. She was 16. It was her first trip to China. Arthur Liu also said he learned that Beijing was aware that his daughter had once posted an Instagram message about the government's crackdown on the ethnic minority Uyghurs in China. When Alysa Liu won gold medals in Milan, she became a problem that China's censorship apparatus could not quite solve. Praise for her skating on the internet in China was often followed by vague warnings, usually from commenters, to look up her family background and political orientation. They couldn't be more specific and had to resort to euphemisms and coded language because references to June 4, 1989, the date of the Tiananmen massacre. Mirror images on ice and snow, Alysa Liu, Eileen Gu, and the reflections of China and America. In the world of sports, athletes often become symbols that extend far beyond their performances. Their victories, struggles, and identities reflect the values, hopes, and tensions of the societies they represent. Few athletes illustrate this phenomenon as vividly as Alysa Liu and Eileen Gu. Though they compete in different disciplines, figure skating and freestyle skiing, their stories mirror one another in striking ways. Both were born and raised in the United States, both have Chinese heritage, and both rose to global fame as teenagers. Yet their choices about national representation have caused China and America to view them as reflections of themselves, and sometimes of each other. Through Alysa Liu and Eileen Gu, the two nations see a cultural mirror, one reflecting pride, identity, ambition, and the complicated relationship between nationality and belonging in a globalized world. Two stars, two paths. Alysa Liu was born in 2005 in California to Chinese immigrant parents. From a young age, she showed extraordinary talent in figure skating. At just 13 years old, she became the youngest U.S. women's national champion in nearly a century. Her athletic achievements were remarkable not only because of her age but because of her technical skills. She was the first American woman to land a triple axel in competition in many years. Liu quickly became a symbol of the future of American figure skating. In a sport where the United States had struggled to maintain dominance against countries like Russia and Japan, Liu represented hope and renewal. She carried the expectations of a nation eager to see a new champion rise. Eileen Gu's story began in San Francisco as well. Born in 2003 to a Chinese mother and an American father, she grew up in California but spent summers in Beijing. Like Liu, Gu was a prodigy. But instead of figure skating, her sport was freestyle skiing, particularly the daring and creative disciplines of big air and halfpipe. Unlike Liu, however, Gu made a decision that instantly placed her at the center of international attention. She chose to represent China in competition rather than the United States. When she competed in the